I uploaded my first review video about the teaser trailer for the new Star Wars movie, The Force Awakens. I'll have a link in the comment section below in case you didn't see that and you wanted to. Of course, the one thing I saw was all the things that were wrong. But hey, I'm already implementing those changes in that you're going to be seeing less of my ugly face. I want to talk about, does the very genre of open world games kill the story in open world RPGs? Now, I understand that there are open world first person shooters, but this focuses particularly upon open world RPGs. A, because I prefer RPGs over first-person shooters, and B, and honestly, more importantly, RPGs, generally speaking, have more story than first-person shooters. Now, of course, this is becoming less and less the trend. There's definitely been more story in first-person shooters, but nowhere near the amount of depth put into it as compared to RPGs. The one possible exception that could be included is what we're talking about today, which is open world RPGs. So, for those of you not familiar with the term open world, generally what it means is that the player in said open world video game has the ability to roam throughout without limitations or with very few limitations in this virtual world that has been created. But another very important aspect of being considered an open world game is non-linear gameplay. Now, there are some open world games that don't have a story really at all, say like Minecraft, although that would be more appropriately termed as a sandbox game. But that's a topic for another time. So when it comes to the story, most open world games can do the order however they want to. Now, that doesn't make it as if you're doing the missions or progressing the story in opposite order, but rather that there aren't prerequisites to go do these side missions. You don't have to be at certain points or places. You can go ahead and go out and explore. Exploring and stories intricately intertwined together in these open world games. However, here rises the problem. There seems to be the complaints of many that the story seems lacking. And while I certainly understand those complaints, I generally can't help but think that is just within the limitations of the genre. Open world, by its very definition, promotes freedom, and most people who like open world games want the freedom to do whatever they want. Now, does this mean that it makes it hard to have a focused, engaging story? Maybe. No one really seems to be doing that terrible, at least not the well-known games. But there does seem to be a legitimate concern about how lack of depth there is for these stories, namely with the most two recent examples, Skyrim and Dragon Age Inquisition. Now, a lot of people have been praising how good Dragon Age Inquisition is, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, but it feels a little bit like an Elder Scrolls Oblivion ripoff, as opposed to Oblivion, you're just dealing with the fate. Now, of course, if it's executed well, it doesn't really matter a whole bunch, but it doesn't seem like the most original idea. A lot of people also complained with how the story wasn't as good or engaging in Skyrim as it was to Oblivion. On the internet, people tend to complain. And people tend to complain anyways, just period. So I couldn't help but wonder and just think about this. Why are people feeling this way? There is a reason why books and movies are structured a particular way. You can't have this open world sort of, oh, I can do whatever I want, because it's not about you. You're not the one controlling it. And that's where video games as a medium is different from books and movies. Think about it. If you had a book where you could just go off and do whatever you wanted to and then come back and do the main story, books would never get published. You would never get picked up by a publishing house. Same thing with movies. If that was your directing style, you would never get a gig in Hollywood because most people don't want to wait an hour before the main story actually happens. So open world games is in fact its own blessing and curse, and we should take it as such. Now, does that mean that someone can't do a knock your socks off story? I know a lot of people are salivating at the new Witcher game, which is set to release sometime next year, and I look forward to the experience that that is going to bring, and hopefully it will have a nice story that you can just really sink into, and yet that doesn't take anything away from the open world experience. It's going to take some considerable talent and effort to meld these two aspects of open world gaming together. Do you want an excellent story, or do you want to be in the open world? Theoretically, it can be done, but it's going to take a lot of work, and I look forward to it. But I think the main thing is that people need to not be so heavy-handed on open world games if their stories aren't up to snuff. Mainly because there are limitations, and every game has limitations. That's kind of the limitation with first-person shooters, and a part of the reason why I don't buy them is because the focus is on the action and not actually the story. The people who are buying FPSs, they're not going there for the story. They just want the best fighting experience possible. Once again, these are majorities and generalizations. Same thing could be said with movies, okay? The people going and watching The Expendables 3, they're probably not going to go to the movie theater the next week and be like, you know what? I want to watch Interstellar. Now, there are always exceptions, but I'm just talking about generalities here. That is my take on why I believe story will continue to be a complaining point for people in open world games. Now, obviously, I would like to get your feedback. Do you think that this is the case? Do you have a different reason, or do you think I'm just off my rocker and have no idea what I'm talking about? It is my second video after all, so hey, could be right.